Okay, lesson 69, which happens to be one of my all-time favorite lessons of any algebra course that I teach. We are going to be factoring trinomials. So you might say, what does it mean to factor a trinomial? Let's see what it means just to factor a number. Say I have a number like 12. What if I said factor the number 12? What we would do is we would divide 12 into its factors. So we might say 12 is 6 times 2. 12 is 6 times 2. 6 is 2 times 3. And we factored it into its factors. What factors are things that when you multiply it together, you get what you started with. So 12 factors into 2 times 2 times 3, and if I multiply those together, I'm going to get what I started with. These are trinomials. What we're going to do with these is we're going to break it into two things that we can multiply together to get this back. So, here we go. Trinomials typically factor into two binomials. So you start by making two sets of parentheses like this. Now the important thing to know, the reason we learn FOIL is so that we can multiply two binomials together and allow us to check to see if our two binomials actually multiply together to get our trinomial. Let's just review FOIL real quick. If I have x plus 2 times x plus 3, we FOIL those together. Remember, FOIL stands for we multiply together the first, and we get x squared. We multiply together the outer, that's O, so 3 times x is 3x. We multiply together the inner, and that would be 2x. Oops, I just call that the inner. And that would be 2x. And then finally we multiply together the last, and that would be plus 6. Typically when you FOIL two binomials, you're going to be able to add the middle two numbers together. So you get x squared plus 5x plus 6. What we're going to do in this lesson is we're going to take a trinomial like this one, and we're going to break it into the two binomials that you need to multiply together to get the trinomial. So hopefully this is easy for you. It's new though, so make sure you pay attention. I'm going to give you some to try at the end of the lesson. So the first thing we do is we multiply. We say what times what gives us our first term. We would do our first all the time. We'd multiply the two first things together to give us the first term of our trinomial. So what we're going to do here is these two spots would be what we multiply together to give us the first term. So we say what times what gives me x squared, and that would just be x times x. So you put those in. Next we're going to say, remember if we multiplied the last together, the last terms in each one, first, outer, inner, last, or no, this would be the outer, sorry, the outer. If we multiply the outer together, now I'm saying this wrong, the last together, I was right before. So if we take our 2 times 3, it gives us our last term right here. So we're going to say what two factors, when I multiply it together, will give me 10. So we could have 2 times 5, or we could have 1 times 10. Those are the only two possibilities. Now when the coefficient of these trinomials, which they will be, I think almost the entire book, is 1, what we can say is what times what will give me 10, or negative 10, and when I subtract them, I'm going to get 3. So if we looked at these, which two multiply together to give us 10, which would be both of them, which two when I subtract them give me 3? Well, it's only 5 and 2. So we put them in there. We can always, to get the middle term, it's the outer and the inner that add together to give us the middle term. So we would have a 5x and a 2x. That gives me 5, it would have to be 5 minus 2. So this would have to be a plus, and this would be the minus. One of the first things you're going to do when you do these problems is you're going to look at this last sign. If the sign is negative, these are going to be different. If this last sign is positive, these are both going to be the same. They're both going to be the same as whatever this first one is. And I wish I was teaching this one in person because this is a really important lesson and it could seem confusing. So we're going to do a lot of examples in this video. Let's go to another one. This one's not in the in a descending order. So the first thing you want to do for this one is put it in order. So we put the x squared term first, the x term next, and the non-variable term last. Be careful that you bring your sign with the term. We make our two sets of parentheses, and we say what times what gives me x squared. So that's going to be easy. It's going to be the same almost every time. Then we say what times what when I multiply them gives me 6, and when I add them, this tells you what you're going to do with them, gives me 5. Where our combinations would be 6 times 1 and 3 times 2. So what times what gives me 6, and when I add them gives me negative 5. And here's another thing. Look at your last sign. It's positive. Remember what I said? When the last sign is positive, both signs are going to be the same. They're going to be the same as this one. So we're going to put our negative in here. What times what gives me 6, and when I add them I get 5? Well, the only combination is this one, so we put it in either place. Now if we check this by FOIL, our first would be x squared, our outer would be negative 2x, our inner would be negative 3x, and our last would be plus 6. And if we add the like terms together, we get exactly what we started with, and so we know it's correct. Once you do your first term and your last term, you just need to check to make sure this middle is correct. So we would do our outer is negative 2x, our inner is negative 3x, and that's negative 5x. Let's keep going until it sinks in. This one is not in the correct order. It's not in descending exponents, so we have to rearrange it. Two sets of parentheses. Look at this last sign. If it's plus, both signs should be signs are the same. What are they both going to be? Well, they're both going to be plus because the first one's plus. So put those in right away. Makes it really easy. What times what gives me x squared? X and x. What times what gives me 5, and when I add them I get 6. Well, we only have one combination. So 5 and 1. So we check our outer and inner. Our outer is x. Our inner is 5x. 5x and 1x is 6x. So this is a correct factorization. So if we did FOIL on this, we would get what we started with. Let's keep going. Okay, next one. Two sets of parentheses. Look at the last sign. It's negative. So if it's negative, the signs are going to be different. So we put a plus in one, minus in the other. What times what gives me x squared, x and x. It's a little bit more complicated because 16 has more factors than 5 would have. So 16 would give us, we could have 4 times 4. We have 2 times 8. And what else do we have? I guess that's this. We have 1 times 16. So we say what times what, which one of these pairs of factors will give us 16, but when we subtract them, we get 6. Well, the only one would be this one. This times this equals 16, and when this one tells you if you're going to add them or subtract them. When you subtract them, you get 6. Now, 6 is, you want the bigger number to go with the positive because you want a positive 6x, so we put an 8 there, 2 there. Just real quick, let's check the outer and inner. Outer, negative 2x, inner, positive 8x. 8x minus 2x does give us our 6x. So we factor these. Okay, here's another one. Look at the last sign. The last sign is negative, so one's a plus, one's a minus. We're going to subtract whatever our factors are for 27. So we'd have 1 times 27, 3 times 9. I guess that's it for 27. So we say, what times what gives me x squared? This will change probably at the end of this book or Algebra 2, where we're going to have like a number in front of here. But for right now, it's always going to be x times x or n times n or whatever the variable is. We say what times what gives me 27, and when I subtract them, I get 6. Well, this is the only combination. 6 is negative, so you want the bigger one to be negative, and 3. Your outer is negative 9x, your inner is plus 3x, so that does give us negative 6. Okay, a couple more. I just want you to be able to make sure that you can do these, because I can't see your faces and answer your questions. Okay, last one I'm going to do, and then I'll give you a couple to try. So here we go. 2 sets of parentheses, x and x. Last sign is negative, one's a plus, one's a minus. The factors will be 15 and 1. We haven't used these, the 15 and 1 or 10 times 1 very often. It's usually one of these other combinations. 3 times 5. When we subtract them, we get negative 2. Well, we want it to be negative, so the bigger one goes with the negative, and we get 3. Now I'm going to have a couple here for you. I want you to pause the video, try all 3 of these, or you can try one and then watch me do it, pause it, try another one and watch me do it, try the third one. So whatever way you want to do it, you have control of the video. So pause it right now and try these 3 problems. Okay, hopefully you paused it, because I'm going to do these problems now. So here we go. What times what gives me p squared? P times p. What times what gives me 20? And when I subtract them, I get 1. So remember, one's a plus, one's a minus. The last sign's minus, so it makes the signs different. Remember, this is a different sign, so it means they're different. We have 5 times 4. You're going to get faster at these. 2 times 10, 1 times 20. You might know right off that 5 and 4, when I subtract them, I get 1, so you don't have to write these other combinations. So we want it, the bigger one to be positive, so we put 5 and 4. We check it, the outer is minus 4p, the inner is 5p, and we get p. So that gives us our middle term, so that's correct. Okay, next one. What times what gives me m squared? M and m. Last sign's plus, so they're both going to be the same. They're both going to be the same as that one. Plus and plus. What times what gives me 20? And when we add them, we get 9. Well, I know it's 5 and 4. And the last one. This one is not in the correct order, so you have to reorder. Another plus plus one. So x and x. Both signs same. And we're going to add our factors. So plus plus. What times what gives me 12, and when I add them I get 8. Well, that would be 6 and 2. So hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, we'll cover that again in class. You can email me or put it on the help board. So that is it for lesson 69.